The Nazi blitzkrieg above France and then, of course, England killed hundreds of thousands of people, raining bombs down on major cities, particularly the Blitz. And you did not see 1/1000th of the panic that we saw in the West yesterday and today when a reported Islamicist convert with connections, at least as a fellow traveler and admirer of ISIS, that means Al-Qaeda's new comic book name, attacked the parliament, shooting one of the honor guard, ceremonial honor guard that was there at the war memorial, and then himself being shot by the sergeant at arms. And, of course, it was someone with a gun that was able to stop the bad guy with a gun. Good guys with guns stopping bad guys with guns. 2 + 2 = 4. But to see the panic for hours after the parliament piling chairs up on doors and just men with their submachine guns shaking in fear like they had just battled a Tyrannosaurus Rex shows the mind control and the fear that they've instilled, not just in the general public, but government itself. This does not radiate confidence worldwide for the West, I will assure you. It's over the top. And again, it's very sad for the gentleman that was shot and killed. But we had to hear how there was a second gunman for hours as they locked down much of the city of Ottawa. It's just another signpost on the road to insanity. Corporal Nathan Cirillo of Hamilton, identified as soldier, gunned down in Ottawa attack. This coward reportedly just walked right up to him and shot him multiple times in the chest, and then went and mindlessly sprayed some bullets into the parliament, and then was shot and killed before he could kill more people. And it's because of these radical Islamicists being funded by the West that I have predicted will start mass shootings. Not hard to predict that. It's like predicting tornadoes will come sometimes in the spring. Or that you'll get hurricanes in the fall in the Atlantic Ocean. Or you'll get typhoons in the Pacific. You go out and you fund and you rock star these groups, and you give them all this attention, you let them operate on Twitter and Facebook while InfoWars is censored, you're going to have this go on. And they don't care if people cross the border and come and do this. I have predicted they're going to shoot down airplanes in Europe, Canada, or the U.S., or all three. We've talked about the 15,000 missing heat-seeking missiles that our government basically gave to Al-Qaeda. They changed the name to ISIS. It's a big deal. Now, I'm going to cover that, but I'm just going to stop right here, and I'm going to tell everybody something that we're working on right now that is so big that I don't even feel worthy as a news organization, myself individually. I don't feel like, it's just bizarre. Like, why me? Why do we always get the information? Why are we given such dangerous information? Why don't other people get what's going on? And when I say I don't feel up to it, I don't know how to announce the information I have on air. I'm going to try to think about it during the break, and I have a tendency when I've got things this horrible, but this important to report, to not cover it. You notice I just went into the shooting up in Ottawa because psychologically, even though it's a tragedy, it's more comforting to me because it's something I know. I mean, it's terrible. It's the opposite of comforting, but compared to the news I have, it is comforting. We're going to try to cover it when we come back. Coming up at the bottom of this hour, we're going to have a medical doctor on who wants to use his name and who he's given us his credentials, who says that there are cases of Ebola in major hospitals and that they're told to basically cover it up and say that it was malaria out of Africa. and that the feds come and swoop the bodies or the patients away. Now, remember, the head of the Border Patrol Union said 2 months ago and last week on this show, we're going to get him back on, by the way, if we can, today or tomorrow, that indeed the CDC is on the border and is picking up people that have Ebola-like symptoms. Now, the reason this is of such concern is that for a week, we've been in contact with a doctor who is the head of a major Texas hospital. This is a doctor I've known personally for about a year, a doctor I've had dinner with multiple times, a doctor I've gone out with friends to the Broken Spoke. It's not a medical doctor that runs a hospital in Austin. It's another major Texas city, and he doesn't even want the city named, but you can probably guess. He told us a week ago, confirmed exactly what this other doctor who's coming on record is going to tell you. Now, since we began to learn about this, we began reaching out to other medical doctors at hospitals, and they get very upset and say, I'm not supposed to talk to you about this, but yes, this is going on. Ladies and gentlemen, Ebola is probably spreading inside the United States right now. My gut level look at this, why are they saying the family doesn't have it? Why did none of the neighbors get it? None of the kids that were around his kids, but 2 nurses. The nurses have unions. The nurses are going to speak up for themselves. The nurses have already been protesting. The cleanup crews on the airplanes 3 weeks ago in New York and other areas began going on strike, saying, I'm not going to clean up vomit on these African flights. They're coming in out of countries with Ebola. We know they're covering up the numbers of Ebola deaths in Africa. That's even in Associated Press. They're set to have over 1 million people get Ebola. The only place they can run is to the U.S. Everybody else shut the flights down months ago. It's a no-brainer that they're covering up Ebola. Now, it's a no-brainer, and I've said in my gut, I believe that's going on. Because my intellectual research shows that they're covering it up. All the evidence points there. They're trying to spread it. But also my gut and everybody else's gut that I talk to is on fire right now. And then I talk to a major doctor who, quite frankly, runs more than one hospital. I'm just going to leave it at that. I mean, a major medical center, medical doctor, director. And he says, I will lose my license. They will come after me. We've been told, do not talk about it. But yes, it's true. And don't you say who I am. So we sit on this for a week. Anthony Gucciardi comes on yesterday, and I don't know what my problem is. That's why I say, why me? I don't even feel like I'm up to be able to cover things this big, quite frankly. And he mentions we know medical doctors that say it's spreading, so a medical doctor calls in. We get his number, get his info, call, check on the hospital site. It's him. And he says, yeah, they're threatening people. He's coming on in 15 minutes. He goes, I don't care. This is too important. Hippocratic oath, do no harm. This is sensational. This is the stuff talk radio's made of, and I hate it. I absolutely hate breaking this to you. This government is so evil. I mean, I have 3 children. I have a family I love. And to know that this is probably confirming what we can already see the evidence of, 95% chance Ebola spreading, and they're covering it up. I just can't believe it. What an evil government. Because here's the deal. They're not just covering it up to stop panic. They're covering up things that would have stopped it spreading. They want this on purpose. And I'm just coming myself face to face with the fact that I've been right. We are in this much trouble. This just validates everything. And I'm not happy to be validated, to be vindicated. Because every instinct I've got is you've done your job. You fought hard enough, buddy. You've spent 20 years battling this. You are a major target. Get out of here or shut up and shut it down. because most other people are cowards. There aren't a lot of other outlets that'll cover things like this. And so you better believe I'm a major target. But I'm not going to shut it down, and I'm not going to shut up because, sure, I could run from this for a while. We all collectively got in this position by running from tyranny and by trying to appease it and by not going up against it. And it's like being beat up once a week by a bully at school. You finally decide to fight back. And even if you lose the fight, they'll move on to somebody weaker because you fought back and bloodied their nose as well. And politically, not physically, it's time to start bloodying the establishment's nose. And that's what it's going to do when doctors and nurses don't shut up and go public with what the head of the retired Border Patrol Union has said, what Border Patrol active duty officers have told us, point blank, here in Austin and in Las Vegas at a medical conference Dr. Group was attending. That, yes, they're whisking people away and disappearing them. Now, if they were doing that to stop panic, it would still be illegal and dangerous. But you could argue you don't want to create a panic. Not when they're letting the flights still in and clearly letting it spread. So, see, they want the tyranny to whisk away whoever they want and create that precedent with secret medical armies backed up by paramilitary. They want to introduce the idea of this going on while letting the crisis intensify. Former top Border Patrol agent, CDC disappearing potential Ebola victims. That's from October 10th, 2014, 13 days ago. And I'll continue reading from the article. Former Border Patrol agent Zach Taylor has divulged that the CDC is working with Border Patrol authorities and the Department of Homeland Security to disappear potential Ebola victims attempting to cross the border into the United States. I want Don Salazar and Kurt Nimmo and Kit Daniels and Paul Watson and Steve Watson and Mikhail Thalen to all write about this from your own angle. With Zach Taylor and these medical doctors, whatever angle you want to go with, but showing the history of them aiding and abetting the Ebola virus to try to raise the alarm. And Watson's usually listening, but he's over in England. He went back to London. He visited with us for 3 weeks. He's thinking about coming here part-time in the years to, work over here with us. Call Watson, have him call Steve. And they need to tune into what you're about to hear. Oh, man. See, when I'm up here talking about genderless gingerbread figurines and the mayor wanting to arrest, because that's what the subpoenas was for a criminal investigation of preachers that speak out against homosexuality. What are we doing with stores saying we're only going to have genderless gingerbread people to not offend folks, and they want to arrest preachers for reading out of the Bible, and you got all these mystery illnesses flooding across the border, and you've got people still rioting in St. Louis and Ferguson. And Africa has clearly been hit by some type of bioweapon, souped up Ebola. We had Francis Boyle that wrote the U.S. Biological Weapons Treaty that got adopted worldwide, biological weapons expert. Dr. Francis Boyle is also a lawyer. And he says it's a government operation. Wayne Madsen, formerly the NSA, says it's a government operation, names names. The African scientists are saying that. We have BBC pieces, video pieces from the 90s admitting the South African government created weaponized airborne Ebola and stuff to sterilize blacks. I mean, I wish all this intel wasn't just rolling in. You think we like breaking 1 week after Benghazi that it was a hit of the ambassador because he didn't want to transfer Stinger missiles to Al-Qaeda? And that we predicted they would then say, prepare for the Stinger attacks in the West, which they're now doing, but never pointing out that our government armed them? Do you think it's fun? I just want you to know, for people that are new listeners and go, oh, this is off the chart crazy, this stuff's too intense. I'm sorry, that's what's really going on. I don't want this to be this way either, okay? But what does this tell us about our government? Major medical doctors have told us off record, people I know good, that Ebola is spreading in the U.S. in major hospitals all over the place. And they're whisking the people away and they don't know where. And they're telling them shut up and say that it's some type of African fever or jungle fever or that it's some type of malaria, when it's not. Malaria doesn't cause big bloody pustules all over you. We're going to go to break. I'm going to try to get my mind focused and say a little prayer for my family and everybody else, because we're all in this together. And this is how they're bringing in the world government. It's stage crisis. It's what the North American Union documents show from 2007, Banff, Canada. We'll be right back. And this office, myself included, have talked to multiple doctors, medical doctors, one of them that heads up a major hospital operation, multiple hospitals, that indeed Ebola, what they believe is Ebola, is showing up. We are getting whistleblower contacts now pouring in from Customs and Border Enforcement and other agencies, confirming what we've gotten from our other ICE sources and our medical doctor sources, that there are people that have Ebola-like symptoms coming off of West African flights all over the United States, and they're being ordered to release them when they screen positive for Ebola with the first test. And by that, the first test just shows that it's probable that you have it and that you need to go for further screening and an official test. And they just are ordered to release them. This is the type of intel with people saying, I work for ICE. Here's my number. Call me at lunch. And then we call these people, medical doctors and others, and they give us their info and who they are, and we call them on the hospital phone and get them on at the hospital, separate from people we know. So obviously what we're going to do here today is open the phones up after this doctor that's coming on in a few minutes and the next segment leaves us, so that more medical doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners, Border Patrol, Customs Enforcement, TSA, you name it, police officers, so you can call in. And if you want to go on record, you can. We'll call you, vet who you are. We have folks send us a copy of their driver's license. We call you at work. That's what we do. We don't just get a call from a guy saying he's a medical doctor and then just believe it. We go and find them on the hospital website. We call them up at work. We talk to them at work. What we do. It's not just that they're letting the Ebola spread. It's that they're covering it up. And I guess they think they can contain it. Or maybe they want it to be out of control. I don't know. I just know it's criminal. It's out of control. And what does it say about the people running this country? The British, for 2 months plus, have sealed their borders and don't let flights in from West Africa and screen people who jumped from other countries. They have a global database of where you came from. Interpol databases, other databases, credit card records. That's all run through the computers to begin with, worldwide. Unless you live in the middle of nowhere and you're going and paying some small airline, you know, in some 10-seater or 6-seater to fly you over the mountain in Alaska. Unless you're flying on planes that way, or you're hitching a ride with somebody who's a private pilot, you're in the system. And there aren't a lot of private pilots flying in out of West Africa into North America, I'll assure you. So they know what's going on, and it's so bold, it's so crazy, it's got so many angles, it gives me a headache. Interpol, yeah, is moving with face scanning globally when you travel. By the way, Interpol's worldwide. By the way, the head of Interpol earlier this year said that they should arm everyone worldwide, and that would stop Islamicists attacking shopping malls and other facilities like the parliament. And the sad part about this is the West doesn't even differentiate radical Islamicists from regular Muslims, and there is a big difference. Most Muslims do just want to live in peace. They're always being attacked by jihadis, being funded by the West and by Saudi Arabia and others. And what stopped the bad guy up in Ottawa? Somebody with a gun. But that all pales in significance. And they're acting like it's the end of the world. It's being called in the news the Battle of Ottawa. 2 people dead. Meanwhile, we talk to medical doctors, and they tell us there's a cover-up going on. We're going to talk to one of those doctors straight ahead on the other side of this break. I'm Alex Jones. Tell your friends and family to tune in right now. The free audio streams and video at Infowars.com/show. Stay with us. In the past decade, we have witnessed unparalleled scientific discoveries in the area of health. But no one has put together a formula that focuses directly on brain health, nerve growth factors, and optimizing your cellular energy at the same time. DNA Force is one of the most expensive formulas to produce. Some of the ingredients in DNA Force are $12,000 a kilogram. We are using the coveted, patented, only American source of PQQ, CoQ10, and more. You want the best that's out there at the lowest price anywhere? Well, we're bringing you a total win-win. The ultimate value, cutting-edge, trailblazing game changer that also supports the InfoWar. We have produced a limited run of DNA Force, and it will take up to 12 weeks to produce more once we sell out. Secure your DNA Force today at InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139. DNA Force from InfoWars Life.